and you can build off of it, even if it ain't but a little bit. You know, the Bible says a mustard seed of faith is all that it takes. So when you think that God is not working, he is working. He's working it out. And whenever I teach these classes, I always consult God. I be like, Lord, what are we going to talk about this week? Because I don't want to lose my focus either by making sure, you know, I could easily lose my focus if I continue to take in complaints but not hear from the Lord. I can easily get crowded and hear all the complaints but not hear from the Lord. Amen. All right, so what go to Habakkuk 2. I'm going to just go ahead and give y'all what the answer is that God gave to Habakkuk, one of the last answers that he gave to him, because we are getting close to our time. Let me see. Habakkuk 2. When we go into Habakkuk 2, it's basically talking about how God, he did give him the answer. Okay, starting at chapter 2 and verse 1. I will stand at my watch and station myself on the rampart. I will look to see what he will say to me and what answer I am to give this complaint. So the Lord's answer to Habakkuk was, then the Lord replied, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. For the revelation awaits on appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, will certainly come and will not delay. See, the enemy is puffed up. His desires are not upright, but the righteous person will live by his faithfulness. Indeed, wine betrays him. He is arrogant and never at rest, because he is as greedy as the grave, and like death is never satisfied. He gathers to himself all the nations and takes captive all the people. And I'm going to stop right there because it's a whole lot to read. But I'm going to stop right there and go right back to where the Lord replied. He said, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. And that was in verse number 2, Habakkuk 2:2. And let me tell y'all something. Some of these complaints that you got, if you write them down and you pray over it, God will give you a solution to it. And you know what? The solution may not even be for you. The solution that he is giving you may be for the next person. Because it said in there, it said, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. In other words, so that others may read it and run with it. There may be a vision right now inside of you that is being birthed through a complaint that you may not be able to handle yourself, but because there are other people around you that you may tell this vision to, or you may show them, they may be able to get it off the ground. They may be able to help you get it off the ground. Or God may have given it to you just so that you can give it to somebody else. So instead of complaining, we need to learn how to work through it and find out what we can do as far as children of God. What can we do, women of God? What can we do to create a solution instead of constant complaints? Okay, so we're going on now. This is kind of like going to tie into your assignment, y'all, so make sure that you're paying attention. What to do when life seems to be like one big complaint. This is what you need to do. You can write this down. You know, like I said, God allows the process for a reason. The process ain't to kill you. The process is to strengthen you. Sometimes the process is to get your mind set and focused on something else. I found that when I wasn't really paying attention to the things that I was doing, God set my focus back on money. Why did he send my focus on money? Because I was wasting money. And I had to mature in that area of how to spend money. So the number one thing is you got to identify your trials and tribulations that you are currently going through. What is the one thing that constantly stays on your heart that you know that you constantly complain about? By the way, this is part of your homework assignment. What is the one thing in your heart that you know that you constantly complain about? What is something that you have been constantly asking God about and you haven't heard from Him? You haven't heard from Him. What is the one thing that you really want to open up to God about? Well, let me hold that. You want to open up to people about it. You know there's something in your heart that you want to open up to people about, but you also know that people can't solve it for you. You know that people can't do it for you. The very same people you want to open up to may be the ones that you want to open up about, you know. So what is the one thing in your heart that you really want to open up about? Identify it. Write it down. It may be more than one thing. And, you know, I can't say that a woman breaking a nail isn't really – some women break nails and cry, y'all, because they take it that seriously to heart. So maybe it's a self-esteem issue. Maybe it's an issue beyond finances. Maybe it's that you just can't hold on to money. You know what you need to do with the money, but you always find yourself putting it in wrong investments, or you always find yourself playing lottery. You always find yourself buying things that you don't need, hoarding things. Identify your trials and tribulations. When it comes down to relationships, some of the things you want to open up to God about, you may feel like you're not worthy. You may feel like nobody desires you. You may feel like you was made wrong or that you don't fit in. Open up to God about that. You may feel like you even have to settle for whoever will have you. And there are women out here like that who feel like they got to settle for just whoever will take them. Okay? Open up to God about that. Identify those areas. Call them out. Call them out to God. And the next thing you got to do is you got to prepare for the process, which means you have to reposition yourself. So number 2, after identify your trials and tribulations, is reposition yourself. Well, what do you mean by that, Coco? What do you mean reposition yourself? You have to be ready to reset your lenses. You have to reset your lenses. You have to ask God, what should my priorities be? Everything that I put first ain't working for me. Everything that I seem to be focused on is not what I need to be focused on. Lord, what would you have as my priority? What should my priority be? So you have to reposition. And this is the part about repositioning that really hurts, that people don't really want to admit, because we know the core complaints is disappointment and pain. The core of complaints is disappointment and pain, and that influences bad decisions. So the one thing that you got to do when you reposition yourself is be ready to change. When God gives you that go, you got to be ready to change. You got to allow yourself to change. There are some people who just get comfortable being just the way they are. They'll dish out the complaints, but they can't handle a solution because they don't want to change them. They want to change everything around them. They want to change the environment. They want to change. You know, people move throughout their life thinking that it's the environment when sometimes it's just you not willing to change. So you have to allow yourself to change. The next thing is, when you're reading over your complaints, break it down. And be honest with yourself. What is really going on in your life? Answer that question. That's the next thing. Answer that question. What is really going on in your life? You know, we got people that are late to programs, late to being on the job. That's a complaint. We got people who complain about staying home, and some complain about going out. So what really is going on with your life? What's really going on? This is going to bless you once you start writing and you see what's really going on in your life. What parts of your life is really holding you back right now from being the best you, from going forward? What's stopping you? What's stopping you from going forward right now? Who is stopping you? Who is stopping you? Write that down. Okay? The next thing is, what's stressing you out? What's stressing you out and consuming your time right now? Because, you know, that's where our complaints are. What's really stressing you out? And you know what? Really, a lot of this may be some of the same answers, but I'm answering it in different ways because you may view it in a different way. Like stress may be work, and what's really going on with your life, maybe you may feel like you just don't have a life. You know, so I'm asking different ways so that I can push out and you can push out whatever's really going on to help you go forward, to help you be able to write that vision. And you listen now, let me tell y'all something. When I say write out a vision, that does not, or solution, that's not always pertaining to business or something like that. It could be your personal life. You may have a great business, but your personal life jacked up. You may have a great personal life, but your business jacked up. Whichever way it is, you know, flip-flop, vice versa, however it goes, whatever it is, it could be your health. Whatever it is, be honest with yourself. Write out what's really stressing you. What's really stressing me right now is the fact that I don't have a car. That's really stressing me. A solution, which I know the solution is, to get it fixed. Another problem that I would probably complain about if I was still, you know, not really leaning and depending on the Lord, I would be complaining about the money and about the fact that I've already given the money for my car to be fixed, and the man still just got my car sitting up there, and I don't know if he's fixing it or not. See, I could complain about that. I could complain that I already paid for it to be fixed, but this man's not responding to me. But what good would that do me? And how do I know that God's process and God's will ain't for me to just let it sit there a while? Because when I prayed on it, my response was time. Don't rush it. Time. And when I got to thinking about that, what if I did interrupt that process instead of finishing out going through whatever it is that God is having me go through, and I missed something along the way? I missed something because I'm in too much of a hurry to get it back. Because I'm focusing on myself. I'm focusing on my own strength instead of God's strength. You know, that's what Habakkuk said. The people focused on their own strength instead of God's strength. You know, I know who I'm dealing with. I know the guy knows what he's doing. But still, there's a waiting process for me. And there may be a waiting process for you that you may not understand until you write it plainly out. You may have to go and get some professional help. You know, classes like these are good, but if you need more than this, then don't be afraid to go out and get more help. Don't be afraid to outsource and go different places to get the help that you need. Okay. The next thing is to write out what stresses you when it comes down to your career, your relationship. If you're single, what stresses you about being single? What stresses you with family members? So when I say relationship, I mean